Good morning. My name is Phillip Wright, and I'm an instructor, and I am going to be instructing my class on fabricating a footing form. Today is October the 5th, 2012. This is for Penn State Workforce Education 105, lesson number 8. The objectives here is going to be given a predetermined location in the shop. The students are going to go out, they're going to lay out, erect, square, and align the walls of a 10-foot by 10-foot footing form using 2 by 12 material. The form will be erected with an accuracy to be within plus or minus 1/8 of an inch. That's 1/8 of an inch in the leveling and also in the squaring and aligning of it. All right. The first thing that the time that's going to be, I'm allowing approximately 2 hours. They should be able to finish this in 2 hours, and it's going to be out in the shop. The materials that they're going to need, there's going to be the tools that they have supplied, which is required by the apprentice program, depending on what period they're in. And the materials, as far as the wood, the nails, the screws, anything else like that, the little tangibles or expendables, however you want to say it, we will supply those here at the school. And the references that they're going to use is going to be the North Texas Concrete Level 1 textbook. And I can't remember exactly what chapter it is. But anyway. Alright, given the location, they're going to first go to the location that's going to be assigned to them, and they're going to establish a starting point. After they establish that starting point, then they're going to lay out one line, one straight line. That's going to be the first wall that they put up. So they'll have a stake at the beginning, which is going to be the first corner, and then the next stake, probably 10 feet out, since it's a 10-foot form, is where the next corner is going to be. They'll have another stake. They will stretch a line between the two stakes. This is going to serve two purposes. It's going to be used to align and straighten the wall once it has been erected, and it's going to be used to put the stakes that are going to hold that wall up in a line, so that they're all in a straight line and they're in the right places they need to be when they put the board up. Now, once they get to the next corner, we'll call that the adjacent corner. They're going to let that first. This is going to be the first board they put up, and it's going to go past with a cleat nailed on the side of it. And I've got a little prop here. As you can see, this is going to be the first board. This is the cleat that they're going to have nailed to it. As you can see, it's going to go past the next board, the adjacent board that they're going to add to it. All right? Incidentally, this cleat, they'll square a line across and they'll nail that cleat to the first board. And that way, that'll be a resting place for the adjacent board, the next one that they put in. Also, you'll notice that I have some spacers. These are spacers that I've placed in the bottom of the inside of the form. And I'll just put this up top so you can see it. And what that's going to do is that keeps the form at the desired spacing that you want it to be. All right? You'll notice also on the top we have what we call spreaders. These will hold the tops of the form at the desired spacing. Now, after the form has been erected, and just before you pour the concrete, the bottom spacers are going to be taken out because you don't want them in the concrete. All right? So, on the outside of the form, which is the first two boards that we talked about, they're all going to be, they're going to run by at the corner, and they're going to have a cleat nail in them. Then when you put your spacers in and they start on the inside, then they'll have an overlap joint where it'll only overlap the thickness of one of the boards, as you can see right here. Because we don't want them to overlap like the outside, because this is the inside corner, and it would, the overlapped part of the form would be left in the concrete, and that would be hard to strip, which is what you have to do after it's all said and done. All right? So after you've done that, and you've got your boxes, basically you'll have two boxes built. A larger one and a smaller one. The outside will be the larger one. You'll make sure that it's plumb, it's in the line, it's straight, and level. The inside box, you will level across the inside box and make sure that the tops of the inside and the outside are both level. Okay, also, there's another thing that you have to reckon with, and that is the squaring of the form, the footing form. Every building that you put in, it's got to be square. You don't usually see, unless it's one of those wild designs, it's usually going to be square. So what we're going to use is what we call a 3-4-5 method, which is basically the Pythagorean theorem. You've probably heard about it in geometry classes, where from this corner, you go 3 feet, from this corner, 4 feet, and then the distance from this point, the 3-foot point, and the 4-foot point should be 5 feet. That'll give you a 90-degree angle right here. That will also make sure that the whole thing is square. Once you've got done that, then you will stake those so that they don't move anymore. All right? You're going to make sure that all of the boards have been nailed securely. You don't need a lot of nails when you're doing form work, because form work is just temporary. So you want enough nails to hold it, but few, not too many nails, so that when you get ready to take it apart, you don't have to pull a lot of nails. Okay? We have that's pretty much basically how it's going to be done. All right? Every student's going to have to cut their own boards to size. They'll have to come up with their own dimensions as far as what size they're going to use and their stakes and that type of thing. And they're going to align the walls using a procedure that they learned earlier in the semester with the dry line. So let's just recap here. First thing they're going to do is they'll go out to the spot where they're the predetermined spot that they're supposed to lay their form out. They'll establish the first corner. They'll lay out the first board, let it extend past the next adjacent board that's to be put down. Make sure that that they are level and plumb, and that the corner is square. After that, they'll determine the size of their spacers, put their spacers inside, then measure the tops of the boards so that they can make sure that they have fixed their the cleats on the top that we're using for spacers to hold the boards at the proper spacing at the top. And to make sure that the inside form and the outside form are level with each other. That's very important. Otherwise, the tops of your footing won't be level, and you need the top to be level so that when whatever you set on top of it, which is usually going to be a wall, it'll have a level resting place. Do we have any questions in the audience here? Any of our students? Yes, sir. That's a very good question. One of the students just asked, since we take out the bottom spacers, are we going to take off the top ones? Well, the top ones will come off, but they won't come off until after the concrete is in the form. You want to make sure that it stays where you want it until after all the concrete is poured. So as the finishers are coming by and they're finishing the concrete with their trowels, as they get to each tie, then somebody will take it off. There'll be a carpenter there to take that one off so he can finish that and go on. And I believe this is going to be, I think this is going to conclude my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.